My dear friends, we live in an era obsessed with the superficial notion of reprogramming the mind, as if the human psyche were a mere machine, a collection of circuits to be rewired by simple affirmations or mechanical habits. But the soul is not a computer. It is a vast, objective reality, an ancient forest where the sunlight of consciousness barely touches the floor, and to attempt to reprogram yourself in the way the modern world intends is not only a mistake but a dangerous hubris. It is an attempt by the ego to colonize the infinite. If you wish to change your life, you must first understand that you are not a singular entity but a complex architecture of competing forces, and you must not seek to fix yourself like a broken appliance, but rather you must seek to become yourself through the profound and often painful process I call individuation. Most people live their entire lives in a small, cramped room they call themselves, utterly unaware that this room is merely a tiny balcony attached to a cathedral of immense, cosmic proportions. For you believe you are the master of your house, yet you do not even know who lives in the basement or what ghosts haunt the hallways at night. When you say you want to reprogram your mind, I must ask you, who is this I that speaks with such authority? It is the ego, the small center of your conscious field, but the ego is a fragile thing, a mere cork floating on the limitless ocean of the unconscious, and you cannot reprogram the ocean. You can only learn the art of sailing it. The patterns that frustrate you, your failures in love, your recurring anxieties, your sudden outbursts of anger, and your paralysis in the face of destiny, are not bugs in your software or errors in your code. They are the living voices of the unconscious demanding to be heard and integrated into the whole. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life from the shadows, and you will call it fate, resigning yourself to a life you did not choose while wondering why the same tragedies keep knocking at your door. The first step in any true transformation is the terrifying encounter with the shadow, which is everything in you that you have deemed unacceptable, everything you have repressed because it did not fit the image you wanted to project to the world. You have spent years, perhaps decades, building a persona, a polished mask to show society, and in doing so, you have cast a long, dark shadow behind you containing your anger, your selfishness, your untapped power, and your most hidden shames. Reprogramming usually fails because people try to program the mask, polishing the surface while the shadow remains in absolute control of the engine in the dark. You must go into that darkness. You must descend into the basement of your own soul and ask yourself, what is the thing I would least like to be? Because there, in the dirt and the rejection, you will find the raw energy you need to truly change. To integrate the shadow is to become whole, for a man who is merely good is not complete. He is simply harmless and untested, whereas a whole man has integrated his capacity for darkness and chosen, through an act of will, to use it for the light. The language of the deeper mind is not the language of logic or the English tongue, but the language of symbols and archetypes, and if you wish to communicate with these deeper layers, you must pay attention to your dreams, which are the impartial, spontaneous products of the psyche that show you exactly where you are out of balance with nature. If you feel stuck and stagnant, do not reach for a shallow self-help book filled with empty mantras, but instead practice what I call active imagination by sitting in the absolute silence of your own company and allowing an image to arise from the depths. Perhaps a figure from a dream or a physical feeling of dread, and you must speak to it without judgment, asking it what it wants from you and what it has to teach you. This dialogue bridges the gap between the conscious and the unconscious, creating a psychic bridge that is the only programming that possesses any lasting power. Beyond your personal memories and the traumas of your childhood lies the collective unconscious, the ancestral heritage of all humanity that has been passed down through the ages, inhabited by powerful archetypes like the Great Mother, the Wise Old Man, the Hero, and the Trickster. These are not just intellectual ideas. They are psychic organs as real as your heart or your lungs, and when you feel a sudden, inexplicable burst of inspiration or a crushing weight of despair that seems older than you are caught in an archetypal field. To transform your mind, you must recognize which ancient myth you are currently living out and move from being a helpless character in a story you did not write to becoming the conscious author of your own psychological journey. The ultimate destination of this long and winding journey is the self, the totality of the psyche that stands above the ego and represents the union of all opposites. In many cultures, this is represented by the mandala, a circle of wholeness that contains the square of reality, for transformation is not about adding something new or artificial to yourself, but rather about removing the obstacles to your inherent original wholeness. You are like a block of unhewn marble. The masterpiece is already inside, perfect and complete, and it is merely the excess stone and the false beliefs that must be chipped away through metanoia, a fundamental, radical shift of the mind and spirit. You must stop asking how you can get what you want from the world and start asking what the life within you wants to express through you. Do not seek a quick fix or a weekend seminar on success, for the psyche moves at the slow, deliberate speed of nature, not the frenetic speed of technology, so you must be infinitely patient with your soul and learn to accept your own contradictions. The goal of a human life is not to be perfect or to be a saint. It is to be complete, to be whole, and to stand firmly in the truth of who you are. If you find yourself repeating the same mistakes, do not curse your programming as if you were a victim of a bad machine, but instead look at the symptom as a devoted friend. Your anxiety is a signal that you are living too much in the persona and ignoring the needs of the soul, and your depression is a signal that your vital energy has fallen back into the unconscious to find something precious that you have lost or neglected. You do not program the mind. You relate to it as you would relate to a beloved partner. You court it, you listen to its whispers, and you eventually marry the conscious to the unconscious. In that sacred union of opposites, the individuated man is born, a being who is no longer a slave to his impulses or his society, but a free individual who stands at the center of his own being. This is the only true freedom available to us. We must remember that we are not what happened to us in the past, nor are we the victims of our biology. We are what we choose to become when we finally have the courage to face ourselves in the mirror of the soul. True reprogramming is the death of the old, false self so that the true self may finally breathe.